What's up, Ultimate fans? Andrew here with the Ultimate Show and AUDL updates. We got another episode this week for the Midwest. We didn't play any games last week, so there's nothing to recap there. But we'll send it over to James for the 2 weeks that happened last week.
All right. Hello, guys. As you know, there's only 2 games last week, both in the South Division. So I'm going to recap those games right quick. We had Atlanta. Atlanta went to Nashville for their second game of the season and managed to pick up a win against Nashville, like so many tend to do, unfortunately. A 10-point spread there was, 37-27. Atlanta picks up the win. Nashville's deep. Nashville got tested deep a lot and just couldn't seem to stop it. So we'll see how that is improved going forward. Raleigh went to Jacksonville for their 4th game of the season, and Raleigh actually managed to win by a 7-point spread. They won 25-18. I always used to harp on Raleigh's defense not being able to match up to their offense, but this year is a bit different. They managed to force 25 turnovers on Jacksonville. Now, granted, Jacksonville is a team that likes to huck a lot. You know, when you have big Misha Freystarter, you like just throwing it up and hoping he comes down with it. But not only did they force 25 turnovers, they also managed to generate 21 defensive blocks. So, for a team that's always struggled on defense, that's great for them to be able to generate that kind of defensive prowess. 4 different people tied for 3 assists on Raleigh. 2 people got 4 goals. And 3 different people got 3 blocks on Raleigh. So Raleigh's definitely distributing the glory on their team.
All right, good to hear. And now for the upcoming games this weekend. In the Midwest Division, we have Pittsburgh traveling to Chicago, and I believe Indy going to Minneapolis. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Indy's going to Minneapolis, and Chicago is going to Pittsburgh. They have these backwards, but anyway, Pittsburgh, always good team at home. They have the only game they lost at home was against the Madison Radicals last year at the same weekend. So we'll see what happens this year. But Chicago might not be as good as they were last year. They lost a few players, but Pittsburgh is always a powerhouse, so I expect them to win over Chicago. And as well, Indianapolis is going to Minneapolis. And I believe the Alley Cats will pull out a win. I know Ben's going to be upset at me for picking that one, but I think the Alley Cats have proven they can hang with the big dogs. I think they'll slide in as the number 3 seed in the Midwest Division and slip into the playoffs. And winning this weekend will all but ensure that happens. And now we'll head over to Ben for his division preview.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm not too happy about Andrew picking Minneapolis to lose, but, you know, we'll see what happens on the field. In the West this week, San Diego is making a Bay Area road trip. They head to San Jose on, I think it's Friday, actually. Another Friday game, and then they play San Francisco the next day. So pretty tough weekend for them. And then also Seattle heads up to Vancouver for that rivalry. So that looks to be good. So I'll start with the San Diego-San Jose game. Both of these teams I predicted to basically be on the bottom of the West, and they're surprising some people. San Diego's had a pretty good start, but San Jose just upset San Francisco, who we all thought had a guaranteed spot in the championship weekend. So both of these teams are playing well right now. This is such a hard game for me to pick, but I have to go with one of them. I think this will be a really close game, but I'm actually going to pick the San Jose Spiders to get the win. Mainly because San Diego is playing a doubleheader. And following that theme, the next day they head to San Francisco to play the Flamethrowers, who seem to be the team that everybody wants to beat in the West, since, I mean, they're probably the best. And I also think that San Diego is going to lose here. 0-2 on the road trip, it'll be harsh for them, but I think San Jose is and San Francisco will just be too much in the same weekend. Now for the final game with Seattle and Vancouver. Both of these teams have put in some good performances. Seattle's probably the better team, but Vancouver has some guys you just can't sleep on, especially Darren Wu and Gagan Chatha. But Seattle, I think, will pull this one out as well. So we'll head over to James for the last two divisions for this
Okay.
week.
So I'm going to start with the East Division. We're going to have Montreal doing I can't really say, they're going to be doing a U.S. road trip, so to speak. I don't really know how to say this. But they're going to be in Philly the first day. They're going to be in Philly on Saturday and New York on Sunday. So doubleheader. Philly, they did their signing party in the first week of the season. So, while they weren't playing, they were signing players and letting people meet and greet with them and all that good stuff. As we know, Philly did get the great Nikki Spiva from the DC Breeze. Their coach coached in the MLU, a coach of the New York Rumble. Now everyone knows, if you followed MLU, you know the New York Rumble's record, but do not let that persuade you against her coaching skills. She actually is a very talented coach, and she has other award achievements that are not MLU based. So we got to give her credit. And they actually did get a couple of Philadelphia Spinner players from the MLU. So you never know this could go. Montreal is generally a competitive team. They have one playoff appearance in their history, and so did the Philadelphia Phoenix. And these are two teams that are looking to make it back to the playoffs. Montreal, they have championship weekend. That's why they want to get back. Philly wants to prove that they're not the stomping ground of the East. I'm actually going to give Philly home field advantage, and with their new acquisitions, I'm going to say Philly pulls this out over Montreal. I expect a decent game. I think Philly pulls this out over Montreal. And then we have Montreal going to New York. New York played very well in their game against Toronto. They may have lost by 5 in the end, but they kept it close throughout until the end. They had great plays all day. Garvey, as handler, he was absolutely fantastic. He was able to hit the accurate throws. I'm pretty sure, didn't New York get Ben jacked, or was that DC, Ben?
Ben Yacht went to...
Ben Yacht has
been
gone
jacked.
to New York.
Ben Yacht, my apologies. So yeah, they do have
Yacht
Club.
They do have the Ben Yacht acquisition. So I think, unfortunately, Montreal goes 0-2 to start the season. I think New York and Philly are going to pick up wins. I expect the Philly and Montreal to be a decent game, but the doubleheader, I think, is just going to be too much for them when they face New York. And then I'm moving to the South Division. We have Jacksonville versus Atlanta, a mini rivalry, a sub-rivalry, so to speak. Divisional rivalry nonetheless. Every game's a divisional rivalry almost, basically. Atlanta's going to be home. We saw Jacksonville's powerhouse in their first game against Nashville. Then we saw that powerhouse kind of die when they faced Raleigh, but then again, Raleigh has gotten a lot better defensively. Atlanta is a pretty good defensive team, but they let one of the worst teams in our division score 27 points on them. So, you always got to wonder what the case is. I think Jacksonville might pull the edge on this road trip. I think Jacksonville over Atlanta, probably a good game. Like I said, these two are going to be fighting for probably that third playoff spot. So I'm going to say Jacksonville over Atlanta. Then we have the Dallas Roughnecks versus the Austin Soul. Wow. It's so hard to go against Dallas. It really is. Austin's a great team, but Dallas is a better team, it seems like. And I don't know what it is, but this week I just had like a gut feeling. I'm picking Austin over Dallas in an upset. I don't know why. There's no real reasoning for it. I just have a gut feeling, and I was taught to go with my gut. So hopefully my gut is right. Austin over Dallas at home. It's going to be interesting. And then Jacksonville goes to Nashville. Nashville is going to be trying to get revenge over Jacksonville for embarrassing them in their first week. Nationals at home. Unfortunately, Jacksonville is still the same team that they faced in that first week. Misha Freestaughter, Cole Sullivan. I don't know if Brody Smith's going to be playing or not, but I still think Jacksonville wins by a considerable margin. And I picked this game for last. We have the first Cross Coast Challenge in the league this year. We have the first cross divisional games in the AUDL since the first season. DC versus Raleigh, both of which are in my division jurisdictions, which is why I saved it for last. This is a good game. Both of these teams finished second in their respective divisions last year. Raleigh did get Jonathan Helton and Brett Matzuka from DC, so Jonathan Helton will be playing the team he played for last year. DC, of course, we know has the likes of Markham Schaffner. I always only think of Markham Schaffner. Again, their coach, he has a World's Championship under his resume. So he has experience. We saw what they did to Toronto Rush in that game. Even though Raleigh's home, I'm actually going to pick DC to win this game. And since it's a cross-coast challenge, I'm going to let Ben and Andrew chime in on their opinions of this game, because this is kind of a special game we have going on here. I'm picking DC over Raleigh. What do you guys think?
Well, last week, I don't know if you guys watched the Jacksonville-Raleigh game, but Raleigh didn't score in the fourth quarter. So that is a huge red flag for me. I'm going to go with DC on this one. I think it's I was really shocked by last week's fourth quarter non-scoring, because they were up 18 to they were up by like 3 with ending the third quarter, and then they didn't score in the fourth and the game was over. So I think Raleigh's got to find a way to lock down the fourth quarter and score and keep I don't know what it was, whether a player got injured or if it was just bad throws or whatever, but they have to find a way to score in the fourth quarter. I know Atlanta fans from the NFL might be reminiscing of the Super Bowl they recently had, and that will not end well if they can't score in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to go with DC over Raleigh.
Yeah, so Andrew kind of focusing more on Raleigh's shortcomings, but I'm going to focus on DC's strengths. I mean, when you can shut down the Toronto Rush team like that, I mean, that was fantastic. I mean, that's never been seen before. Toronto getting just destroyed. DC had them on lockdown. They had their number. And it's about time. Toronto's had their say for a very long time, and DC just shut them right up. So, DC obviously has the momentum right now. Just killing it. So, I'm also going to have to go with DC in this one.
All right. Some great picks from this week's episode. Tune in next week as we recap and go over next week's games. Until then, Andrew, Ben, and James signing off from The Ultimate Show. See you next week.